Now it's my honor to introduce you to our afternoon screening, Fight to Live, directed by the Barbara Kopple. Let's give her a very warm welcome.
Thank you guys for being so brave and coming here. And this is really a collective effort, and I'm just really proud to be showing this film to all of you. It means a lot to all of us, so thank you for coming. At this time, I'd like to have Carla Mann, who's our extraordinary producer. Please come up. This was her idea, and she mentored this film all the way through and is just doing some extraordinary work. And also, all the people who are in the film, will you please come up? There's a lot of you.
The chances that each one of us will face a deadly disease or someone that we love very dearly maybe already has. The advances that we've made in this country, for example, in cancer, have largely been around early diagnosis and surgical treatments in that regard. We've made very little progress in spite of the fact that we have a revolution in science going on today around the treatment of cancer. The problem we have is that the system is so burdensome, and it's not in our interest, it's not in public safety's interest to regulate the way we are. And as a result of that, we're losing therapies that could be the solution to our ability to treat a disease like cancer. There is no silver bullet. It's really a compilation of many, many therapies that are individually selected for each person because it's a very individual disease. And that just can't be done in this system. And on top of that, you have this incredible issue of patients who want access to these therapies. They see these therapies and they want access and they can't get access. And we're Americans, but we can jump off a cliff with a parachute. So we have this misbalance. And what's important is that we fight for our rights and that there are many of us trying to do that. And really, it's important to share this information with the people you know, the people you love, support organizations that are trying to drive change, and let your voice be heard, because you might not be sick today, but you don't want to be waking up with sometime in the future where you can't let your voice be heard. You're fighting a different fight.
I invite all of you to go to fighttolive.org. Carla has a lot of great stuff up there. It'll tell you some bills that are happening, things in the government that are happening that we all need to follow and to try and get the system changed, because somebody you know someday is going to be in this fight.
Probably most of you think that the FDA is a benevolent agency that has our best interests at heart. And I think if you were to talk to each one of the individual people that work there, you would come away with the impression that they do. But the effect of what they do is very much the opposite. They're so focused on the regulation that they don't see the effect. And they're so focused on the risk that they don't see the benefit. This is the most serious threat to your life that we face. 1,500 people die every day from cancer. 2 days equals 9/11. And we're not fixing it. And the biggest reason by far, is the FDA.
I want to thank you all for coming, and in case you hadn't noticed, this is Debbie Gattoni, one of 12 ALS patients who actually received Iplex, and as you can see, she's still with us.
The clinical trial system is extremely flawed, and certainly, we deal a significant amount with physicians who had medical or oncology research at, for example, MD Anderson or Sloan Kettering. Numerous physicians who are heavily involved in the development of the clinical trials. The biggest issue that they have in the clinical trial structure is the issue of placebo-controlled trials, in which you are essentially treating hundreds of thousands of patients over a span of years with a sugar pill for their prostate cancer or their breast cancer. We're killing people in the name of science, and it's not science. It's, physicians who are involved in this are pulling their hair out because they have no choice but to give patients a placebo because it could be their only chance of getting a drug that the physicians agree is the best, most likely chance they have at surviving. Drugs today in the development program are insanely more safe than the drugs that have been approved for years. Chemotherapy is literally raise your hand and to voluntarily poison yourself to you're the brink of death in the hopes that you'll kill the cancer first. That's the standard treatment. So the clinical trial structure is essentially a big part of the problem, and it's really run by statisticians and not physicians. So we have an opportunity to change that, but it really is going to require voice. You can't be confused that the way the FDA actually studies drugs is the only way that we can determine that they work or that they're safe. That's absolutely not true. And there's countless evidence to that effect.
A lot of other problems. Getting into an initial clinical trial is enormously difficult and expensive. It takes years to convince the FDA that you can give a drug to a single patient. It can cost millions of dollars to get to that point. And they may say no. The clinical trial system is about 60 years old. It was conceived in the 1950s by some people who were concerned about the fact that we didn't have any way to test for whether or not a drug was effective. And the best we could do at that time was these simplistic comparisons that we call the randomized controlled trial. It's kind of like if you went to a supermarket and they had two kinds of cola sitting on a table with paper around it. And two kids could do this. They do it on the sidewalk. And you taste the cola and they add up which one you like, and that's your answer. That's the better cola. Okay, so that's our clinical research system. That's where randomized controlled trials came from. And it's a system that was born of the ignorance that existed in 1958. In 1962, the Congress wrote it into law in a law called the Kefauver-Harris Amendments. And just a few weeks ago, FDA held a celebration of those amendments. They still like them, they still follow them, and we're...
As an example,
Yeah.
by the time a drug gets to patients, it's already 3 to 4 generations obsolete. So by the time a new class or a new breakthrough in drugs has gotten to you, and just as an example, there was a clinical trial, and these are actually being written up in major papers like the Wall Street Journal. Former deputy commissioners of the FDA are speaking out now. The former commissioner of the FDA is speaking out now. Because these are really life or death decisions. But there is a rare disease called Hunter syndrome that attacks children. It has a very well-defined path of destruction for those who are afflicted. The FDA mandated a clinical trial that required placebo, and the children who received placebo for the course of a year would be guaranteed to be crippled by the end of the year on a sugar pill without treatment. And it was very, very clear that this was an excellent drug. It was going to have tremendous benefits, and so there was really no reason to do that. The part of the problem is that it looks for averages when individual patients could have profound impacts, and that's not considered in how drugs are evaluated.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm Debbie's voice box. Just wanted to tell you that, we had problems getting access to Iplex, and actually the lawyer that was presented on there was the one that we used to actually be one of the 9 people that were successful in getting access to Iplex. But there were a lot of filters that were, imposed upon us as part of the clinical trial that wouldn't let us have access to it. Like people that have ALS for more than 2 years are excluded from the clinical trials and things like that. So there's a lot of prerequisites that you've got to overcome to get through the system. The movie's title is dead on. I mean, you got to fight to live. That's what we did. I mean, she hosted a demonstration in Washington, D.C. for Iplex. We did a lot of things to get visibility. We had the lawyers going for us. We had everything. She had to fight for it, and that's how we got it. That's the only reason we got it, okay?
We introduced legislation called the Patient Choice Act of 2012. It will get reintroduced in the beginning of the new year because of where we're at with the Congress right today. And that's Congressman Brian Bilbray of San Diego, and his daughter's dying of melanoma right now. If not him, there are still many congressmen that are interested in reform on both sides of the aisle, depending on what their particular interest is. This is a bipartisan issue because this is about access and survival. And but we need legislation that doesn't just give us access. It actually needs to, in the process, give companies a chance to survive so that companies don't go down, because they hold the keys to our future drugs. And if they go down, as you could see in the film, first of all, it's very difficult to get a company to go on record like Antigenics did. It was, and Barbara can attest, virtually impossible. We tried to get Dendreon to come on, but they're so afraid of retaliation by the FDA, because you're basically biting the hand that feeds you. And so they will tell you anything you want to hear off the record, but as soon as it goes on the record, they're terrified. And there is no whistleblower protection for a company that's trying to get a drug to market that could help people, and what the FDA would do to them. Most likely, you're going to find the solution for yourself or someone you love somewhere else in the world, and there are now an explosion of medical travel agencies that are looking to take people elsewhere. And people don't really understand that that's how we have to beat cancer. It's not a silver bullet cure. It's a treatment paradigm. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to find those treatments somewhere else in the world, because they won't be here. And that is happening today.
I just wanted to say a few words about advocacy. I've got involved, obviously, in the fight because of my son's illness. And I've been to Washington numerous times, advocating both with the ALS Association and with RDLA, and talking to congressmen and talking to their aides and talking to the FDA along with the Abigail Alliance. And it really makes a difference. You have to get out there, and you have to talk to your congresspeople. It's the only way that they're going to know what's going on, is by hearing it from us, from the people that are affected by it, because they hear all the legal stuff from the FDA, but they need to know what's really happening to the people. They need to know on a personal level what it's all about. And I will continue to do this for him and help the other people down the road, because we're all in this together, folks. And if we all work together, there's power in numbers, and we can get it done.
I just wanted to say, from the filmmaker's point of view, what an honor and a privilege it was for all of us to get to know all of you and to hear your stories and have you open up and to be part of this activist struggle. And we love you.